Oh, today we stop, reacting to his story. Read. Oh no, not reacting. I mean his story. W.
Put this in the microwave. Something cool will happen. My big brother handed me a fork and grinned. I was only 7, so my eyes lit up as I shoved the metal utensil
Oh no. No.
in the microwave and immediately hit 2 minutes. Ronnie propped his phone against the toaster. I want to record how cool my brother is. I didn't realize he was only recording me to humiliate me, and smiled because my big brother had just called me cool for the first time. Whoa, it's actually doing it. I leaned closer as a blue spark popped off the fork, and when the timer beeped 1 minute, Ronnie glanced over at his phone. Now put your head next to the microwave to get a better look. I pressed my nose against the door, and my eyes widened as the blue sparks turned to crackling. The fork started bouncing inside
I'm scared.
the microwave, and I saw smoke now rising from the top. 30 seconds were still left on the timer, and Ronnie leaned closer like he was waiting for something. But suddenly, I saw a spoon on the floor. What happens if we put this in as well? I bent down to pick it up, and Ronnie immediately crossed the room. What are you doing? Look at the microwave, he pointed. I looked up at him from the floor, and told him I was just making the microwave cooler, but suddenly I heard a flash. Boom! The microwave exploded with Ronnie inches away from it. A bit of the microwave door came off and cracked him in the face, dropping him to the floor. I looked up from where I'd been protected behind the counter and saw Ronnie on the floor, his face covered in gray ash as his hair stuck upwards like he'd been electrocuted. My hands were shaking as I looked at his phone that had just recorded everything. That was amazing. I picked up another fork. Let's get another microwave and do it again. I lifted my camera to take one photo of the Mona Lisa when 3 security guards slammed me onto the floor in front of the whole crowd. I had no idea why and screamed until a guard pointed to the sign, "No photography." He hauled me up by my arm. "The police will be here any second. This is a criminal offense." But I didn't even take a picture. He didn't listen. I'd spent 2 years saving for this trip, and now I was about to go to jail over something I didn't do. They dragged me into the corner, and a guard got in my face. "That painting is worth more than your entire lineage." Over his shoulder, I saw the police marching toward me. I threw my hands up. "Please, let me show you my camera." I didn't take anything. I grabbed my camera, but some guy shoved past me toward the front, and my finger accidentally hit the shutter, and the camera flashed directly at the Mona Lisa. The whole room gasped. The guard's face went red with anger. "He just did it again! Get him!" He yanked my Canon off my neck as the police tackled me and cuffed my hands behind my back. "You'll rot in prison for damaging our Mona Lisa." But when I looked up, the man who shoved me was circling the painting, flashing it multiple times from every angle. But every guard was too busy with me to notice. I had one shot before my life was over, so I screamed, "What about him? Look!" Every guard had turned, and the man's flash brightened the whole painting. He saw the guards and bolted, shoving through the crowd as the guards chased him. But the man was already out the exit. A cop mumbled, "We lost him." But then I remembered the accidental flash I took earlier, and my whole body jolted. "Check my camera! I may have caught him on camera!" The cop grabbed my Canon and turned the screen around. Filling the frame was the man who shoved me, his camera raised at the Mona Lisa. The flash that got me handcuffed was the same one that set me free. The cop uncuffed me, and I finally looked at the painting I'd saved 2 years.
Okay.
I lifted my camera to take one photo of the Mona Lisa when 3 security guards slammed me onto the floor in front of a man tried stealing my daughter's teddy bear at the laundromat, so I simply let him. My coworker Grant walked in with his wine-stained blazer and immediately laughed when he saw me counting quarters to wash Mia's teddy. "They don't pay you enough to own a washer, huh?" I said nothing and kept feeding quarters because I couldn't afford a new teddy. But after Grant put his blazer in, he walked over and started tapping the glass where her teddy spun. "You're seriously washing that dirty thing? Why don't you buy the kid a real toy?" Mia immediately stood up to him. "That is a real toy. My daddy got it for me." I felt proud of her until Grant smirked. "It's not a real toy, little girl. My kids have laser swords and arcade machines. Those are real toys." Mia suddenly went quiet, and Grant knelt down to her. "It's okay. Your daddy just doesn't love you enough to work hard and buy you nice things." My fists instantly curled as Mia backed away and teared up, but I wasn't going to swing in front of her, so I simply stepped between them. "Be quiet, Grant. For your own sake." He laughed in my face. "Or what?" That's when the machine machine behind us beeped. I opened the door to take Mia's teddy, but Grant shoved me out of the way and snatched it. He held it over Mia's head. She reached and screamed, "No," as tears ran down her cheeks, but he just laughed. That's when I snapped. I physically picked Grant and stuffed him into an open washing machine with Mia's teddy still in his hands. I shut the door and put in my last 2 quarters. He screamed, "I'm sorry, please," but I just calmly pressed spin. Mia laughed and tugged my sleeve. That was so funny. But what about my teddy, Daddy? I shrugged. It needed another wash anyway. Then I pointed at the floor where Grant's wallet had fallen when I lifted him. I took out 2 20s and pressed them into Mia's hand. "Come on, let's go buy a new teddy and some pancakes." We walked out while Grant banged on the glass. A man tried. My alarm buzzed at 7 a.m., and when I picked up my phone, my heart sank because it said October 23rd for the 4th morning in a row. I was stuck living October 23rd over and over, and I had no idea why. When I got to school and sat down to eat breakfast, I spotted a kid named Elliot sitting alone at the end of the table. I nudged the girl next to me. "Do you know that kid?" She shrugged. "No idea." Something about him stuck with me because I'd sat in that exact seat myself before I made friends, and I remembered exactly how alone I'd felt. When the bell rang, I watched 2 seniors follow him toward the gym doors, and something in my gut told me they had something to do with why this day kept resetting. By loop 7, I stopped walking straight to homeroom and followed them instead, staying far enough back to watch without being seen. One senior grabbed Elliot's backpack and dumped it upside down onto the floor. Whoops! Elliot dropped to his knees to grab his papers, and nobody slowed down to help. My idiot friend started peeing himself. My alarm buzzed. I stopped walking straight. I screamed, but I was too far away to do anything. I saw him fall, then woke up in my bed at 7 a.m., heart pounding, before I ever heard him hit the bottom. That's when I realized this time loop wouldn't end until I actually saved Elliot's life myself. That day, I skipped breakfast and ran straight to the gym doors, planting myself between Elliot and the stairwell before either senior could get close. "Leave him alone," one of them smirked. "Or what?" I grabbed Elliot's arm and pulled him back a full step from the stairs. I was trying to think of my next move when a teacher rounded the corner and both seniors took off. Elliot stared at me, still shaking. "Why'd you do that?" "Because nobody should feel alone." The next morning when my alarm went off, it finally said October 24th. Elliot waved at me when I got to school, then walked over and sat down next to me instead of alone. My alarm buzzed at
Oh shit.
My idiot friend started peeing himself outside English class. "Dude, I'm so nervous for this presentation. If I screw it up, I'ma have to repeat junior year again." I slapped Rex. "You got this, bro. Just try to picture everyone naked or something." He immediately started grinning at my chest, like he was already picturing me shirtless, and I pinched the bridge of my nose because I had no idea how this was about to go down. We walked in, and I sat down, and Rex went to the front of the room because he was first to present. "This is my report on the Emperor's new CC loads." He was so nervous that his voice cracked reading the title of his project, but then he looked up and his eyes started darting from person to person, and I could tell he was picturing them naked. I thought Rex was going to keep presenting, but he jabbed a finger at the front row and screamed, "Put some clothes on, y'all freaky as hell." I buried my face in my hands because I couldn't believe Rex had taken my advice so literally. I whispered to myself, "Ain't no way, bruh." Rex backed into the whiteboard, pointing at kids one by one. "Why is nobody wearing clothes? Have you no shame? Even the teacher?" I turned to the class to see everyone's reactions, and every kid was grinning ear to ear. One whispered, "He's so committed to the project. This is cinema." My jaw dropped because the entire class thought this was part of his project, when in reality, he was tweaking out. I turned to our teacher to see her reaction, but she just tilted her head, tapping her pen against her grading system, looking more impressed than ever. "Rex, is this part of your presentation?" Rex's mouth opened, and I could instantly tell that he was going to say something stupid. I shot up. "He's presenting the Emperor's new clothes. In the short story, everyone pretends the naked Emperor is dressed until one kid tells the truth. He's making you live it out." She stared at Rex while he slowly lowered his finger. "I've seen 10 years of book reports and nobody has ever thought to perform it instead of just reading. I'm very impressed. That's an A+, Rex." The kids started cheering because everyone knew Rex wasn't the brightest, and this was his highest grade yet. But she raised one hand. "Tomorrow's presentations will be graded against this standard." Rex slid into the desk beside mine and whispered, "Bro, what's an emperor?" My idiot friend started peeing himself outside English class. "Dude, I'm so nervous for this presentation. If I For 10 years straight, an old man would come into the diner every day at 8 a.m. sharp, sit in the corner, and order gumbo with no
What
crackers.
is happening,
All of
Reddy?
us would gossip. Why doesn't he talk to anyone? Do you think he's hiding something? But none of us were ready for the truth. And one day, at 8:15 a.m., when he still hadn't shown up, I was extremely worried. By noon, he'd missed his first bowl in 10 years, and I knew I had to do something. I untied my apron mid-shift and jogged the 4 blocks to his building. When I got to the front door, I knocked. "Earl, it's Ray from the diner. I'm just checking in in. There was no response, so I pressed my ear to the door. Inside, I could hear a weak voice repeating, "Help," over and over. My heart was pounding, so I pressed my face to the window, and through a gap in the curtain, I saw a dark blood stain soaked into the carpet. I instantly started slamming myself into the doorframe. "I'm coming in, Earl!" And when the door finally split open, Earl was on the floor between the couch and the coffee table, lips gray, one arm bent wrong beneath him. "Fell last night," he whispered. "Knew you'd come." I called 911 kneeling on that carpet and held his hand until the sirens arrived. At the hospital, a paramedic pulled me aside. If he spent another night on that floor, he'd be gone. You finding him is what saved him. A nurse stopped me at the desk with a clipboard. "Who should we call?" "Family. Emergency contact." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I realized I'd spent 10 years gossiping about what Earl was hiding, but the truth is, he was never hiding anything. He was just alone, and his gumbo routine was the only thing that saved him. No, it's just me. From there, every evening I brought him gumbo with no cracker, and before they discharged him, the regulars passed a jar down the counter and rented him the apartment right beside the diner so we'd know if anything happened to him again. On his first morning home, Earl eased onto his stool and grinned at me. "Gumbo, hold the cracker." For 10 years straight, an old man. The lawyer pointed at a picture of my inflatable dragon and told the judge it was the demon Baphomet. "Your Honor, this thing signals evil every single night with the defendant's purple lights." I sat there in my one good suit, trying to figure out how an inflatable dragon had turned into a lawsuit that could cost me thousands of dollars. But at least I had come prepared with doorbell footage that made me a lot less nervous about what was about to happen. The neighbor got up next and wiped her eyes with a tissue. "My son can't sleep because the dragon watches him from his window." Her lawyer nodded like it was the saddest thing he'd ever heard, and I rolled my eyes. He kept going. "Tell the court about the fog machine." She let out a dramatic wail. "It's not fog, it's spirit smoke, calling something in from the other side." Then she pulled out her phone. "And ever since he turned that thing on, I can't win a Wordle. My 47-day streak is gone." The judge just blinked at her, so her lawyer jumped back in, holding up a photo of my porch lights. "These purple lights form a pentagram when they hit the dragon's scales." I almost laughed out loud, but the judge shot me a look, so I bit my tongue. When it was finally my turn, I didn't have a fancy lawyer, just a folder of receipts. The dragon's name is Puffy McScales, not Baphomet, and I bought him at a party store for $80. Then I hooked my phone up to the big screen. Also, here's a video my doorbell took over the weekend. I smiled as the video showed my neighbor's son and 3 friends climbing all over the dragon, laughing and taking pictures with it. This is her son enjoying my Halloween decorations. The judge leaned forward. "Ma'am, is this true?" Her face went red and she started stuttering, so the judge banged his gavel. "Case dismissed." I left the dragon up an extra week just to picture her face every time she drove by. The lawyer pointed at. I pet my horse, trying to get her to calm down, when my cousin grabbed her tail and yanked it for the 3rd time. Rusty whinnied and pulled away, and I instantly told Bradley, "Stop, my horse will kick you if you keep doing that." But Bradley just shrugged. "So what?" I paused. "What do you mean, so what?" "So what if your horse kicks me?" He flexed his biceps. "I'm strong, I can take it." I laughed and told him if my horse kicks him, he'll end up in the hospital. That's when Bradley clenched his fists. "Nah, man, that's not how it works. How can a horse kick hard when it kicks backwards?" He kicked his leg backward like he was proving a point. "See, there's barely any power when I do it like that." I gripped my stomach, laughing and flabbergasted. "Get a load of this guy, you're an idiot." But Bradley's eyes went red. "Watch, I'll prove it." He wrapped Rusty's mane around his wrist and tugged hard, snapping Rusty's neck back. "Go on, stupid horse, kick me." He laughed and clenched his jaw like he was ready. Rusty snorted in anger and stomped her leg on the ground so hard dust went flying. I gasped as I knew what this meant. I didn't want my cousin potentially dying, so I put my head on her neck to calm her down. "It's okay, girl." But then Bradley gripped his head, laughing. "It's a girl too? Yeah, her kicks won't be hard. Everyone knows girls are weaker than boys." He started kicking Rusty's calf. "Come on, girl, kick me." I saw Rusty's leg lift, and my jaw dropped as I realized she was about to kick. So I immediately shoved Bradley away before she could, and pointed towards the house. "Get out of here, dude, right now." Bradley looked past my shoulder up at Rusty. "Told you couldn't kick me." He threw his middle fingers at her, then turned around. I breathed a sigh of relief, but then Bradley froze. He smiled as he saw the searing iron rod 10 yards away that we used to mark fences. He grabbed it and immediately started marching towards Rusty, pointing the red metal tip at her. "Maybe now she'll try kick." I stood there shook. "Bradley, no." But he pushed me out of the way and raised the rod inches from Rusty's leg. "Kick me." That's when I saw Rusty tighten. She raised her leg and swung it backwards right as the rod was about to touch her. Her hoof hit Bradley's chest so hard I heard a crack, a pop, and a deflation all at once. Bradley literally flew through the air, landing on a hay bale 30 feet away as Rusty whinnied in satisfaction. I walked over to Bradley, who was clutching his chest. "I didn't think she could kick that hard," he wheezed. I pet my horse, trying to get her to I came home from a work trip, and my girlfriend met me at the door with a blindfold. She got it on before I could look past her. I have a huge surprise for you. She walked me inside, and above me, I could hear our upstairs neighbor's bath running. Then she pulled the blindfold off, and my eyes expanded to the size of the moon. There was a sledgehammer on our couch, and a hole where the wall used to be. What did you do? I made it open concept. I grit my teeth and asked her what that wall was holding up before she took it down, but she waved me off. Babe, walls are just decoration. They don't hold anything up. That's when a crack popped above her head and spidered into a thin line across the ceiling. I grabbed her hand. We need to leave now, but she was already giving me the tour, pointing at empty air. The new couch goes here, and the vending machine goes there. I saw the crack above us split into three, dust snowing into her hair. So I pulled her toward the door, but she pulled me back. I'm thinking of getting a new bathtub, but I don't know where it should go. Then I heard our upstairs neighbor's bathwater running, except it sounded too close. A warm drop landed on my forehead. The ceiling groaned like a sinking ship. I grabbed her waist and dove out the front door as everything came down behind us. The wall my girlfriend broke had been holding the entire bathtub in the apartment above us. When the dust settled, our upstairs neighbor was sitting in his bathtub in our living room, still holding his loofah. My girlfriend peeked past me and tilted her head, and the bathtub goes there. I came home from a work trip. Me and my sister asked Mom, when is Dad coming home? And she instantly shouted, never, your dad hates us. She picked up the last framed photo of them off the dresser and threw it in the fireplace, crying as it burned. Me and my sister looked at each other and decided we had to go find him. So the next day when Mom went to work, me and Jenny took a 3-hour bus to the town we used to live in. We visited the old park the 4 of us used to go and showed strangers old photos, but couldn't find him. But then Jenny yelled, wait, I think I see Dad. She was pointing at the bar he loved. Me and Jenny instantly sprinted in and started shoving through the crowd, but he wasn't there. We screamed, Dad, Dad! And that's when someone grabbed our shoulder. A man we didn't recognize bent down and smiled. Your dad sent me to come get you. I know exactly where he is. Me and Jenny lit up, and we started following him out back, our hands trembling with excitement as we were about to see our dad. But then we turned into an alley, and 4 grown men instantly surrounded us. My chest went cold, but before I could ask what's going on, the guy from the bar laughed. You kids are so dumb. Now give us your phones and jackets. Our kids need Christmas presents. My legs were shaking. Jenny yelled, no, not until we see our dad. The men laughed. Your dad isn't here, and started reaching for us. My stomach was doing flips as his hand reached inside my pocket, but that's when a fist connected with his face. Dad was here. The guy fell, and Dad punched another man. They all started running, and Dad instantly scooped me and Jenny into a hug. We cried, still shaking in fear. Dad asked what we're doing here, and when we explained everything and how we want our mom and dad back together, he went quiet. 2 hours later, we were back, and Mom's jaw dropped when she came home from work. I want to try again, honey. Dad pulled her into a hug while she sobbed. It's now 6 months later, and there's a new framed photo. The volcano erupted just outside of town, and I watched as the giant ash cloud rose in the air. My brain short-circuited in fear as the first bit of debris flew in my direction, and I immediately ran outside to get in my car. Everyone was already driving away as the smell of black smoke filled the air, but when I yanked open my car door, I felt my neighbor shoving me to the ground. Sorry, I need this more. He pulled the keys from my hand and got in, and I watched helplessly as my car tore off down the road. My legs buckled as I stood up, and a giant piece of rock flew inches above my head. The smoke got closer, so I started just running away, but suddenly a man from behind grabbed my shoulder. He started dragging me back towards the direction of the smoke, and my body froze up. I tried to rip free, screaming, "What are you doing?" But he slapped me and kept pulling me towards the ash, his grip tight around my shirt. "Stop fighting me." I watched the other people drive past us in their cars, away from the volcano, while we walked towards it. The heat hit my face, and chunks of rock started slamming into the ground around us. But he didn't slow down for a second. I dug my heels into the ground as hard as I could, but he was older and stronger than me, and I couldn't break his grip. Flowing lava reached the street ahead of us, racing in our direction, and I realized we were about to burn alive. But suddenly, the man started entering a code on the side of a building. He dragged me inside, just as the lava reached us, and slammed the door. He doubled over, gasping, and between breaths explained he was a geologist who'd studied this volcano and built this bunker to survive an eruption. When I saw everyone leaving with cars while you were running, I knew I had to help you. He wiped the sweat off his face while my hands shook. The sad truth is, nobody in those cars will make it. That lava moves faster than any car. My body went cold, as I realized if my neighbor never pushed me out of my car, I probably wouldn't be alive. The volcano erupted just outside of town, and I watched as the giant ash cloud rose in the air. My brain short-circuited in fear as the first bit of debris flew in my The escalator broke down with me on it in my wheelchair. I decided to stay the night in Walmart, and when employees left, rolled out of my Ford of toilet paper. I saw the escalator still moving and immediately got on it, and my heart pounded with excitement as I'd never been on one. But while riding down, I saw the last security guard walking by. My heart froze, because instead of turning around, he switched the power off and walked outside. The escalator stopped midway, leaving me trapped in my wheelchair. I screamed, "Help!" but I could see him already getting in his truck through the window. He looked right at me, laughed, then started the engine. I panicked because if I even moved an inch, I'd tumble down the escalator. And then I felt it. I needed to pee. I tried not to focus on it, but that only worsened the pressure in my bladder, and within an hour, I peed myself. It trickled down the escalator, and my heart pounded in shame and anxiety, but at least I'd peed. By the time I heard birds chirping, I was still awake, now hungry, and still stuck in the same spot. The doors opened, and the same security guard walked in alone. He looked up at me, and I felt my face go red in embarrassment as he doubled over laughing. He started walking towards me, and I was just happy I would finally get some help. But as soon as he stepped near me, his foot slipped under my pee that still hadn't dried. He fell hard and landed on the steps, and as he lay there not moving, I saw his phone screen flash. "You can cover the morning by yourself. I'll be in at 8. It was still 4:45. The escalator broke down with me on it in my wheelchair. I decided to stay the night in Walmart, and when employees...
Yeah. What the hell? Is Mr. Beast said is asking? Huh? Oh, I don't know. But goodbye, babies. I love y'all.